I mean, you talk about a deep, mysterious passage that resists easy characterization. Let's read it. Is this one of the great biblical verses? Oh my gosh, it's so powerful.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Year Through the Bible podcast. I'm Rodney Adams. I'm the executive director at Asbury Church, and you are?
Andrew Forrest, senior pastor at Asbury.
What we're doing is our church is reading through the entire Bible in a year. We're using the one-year Bible format, and every week we release a podcast to just help our folks with that week's readings. You can go to yearthroughthebible.com to get more information about what we're up to, resources to help you read through the Bible, to access the podcast if you can't find it on YouTube or one of your podcast channels or stations. What you can also do is you can write in questions. And so we want to hear from you what questions you have as we read through the Bible. And Andrew, I want to start with a question today. So Tammy asks this: can you please explain blessings further? I'm wondering why Isaac, after being deceived by Jacob, didn't just say, I made a mistake. I was wrongfully deceived. I will give you, Esau, my blessing instead. Or maybe an addendum to her question would be, why not just bless them both? How does blessing work, and what are we to make of that?
I had this Old Testament professor in seminary, and he said, it'd be so funny if somebody made a needlepoint or a bumper sticker with Genesis 27:11. He's always made this joke. Jacob said to Rebekah, my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. He always thought that would be like a great needlepoint. And somebody made it for him one time. He had it on his wall. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because that's part of the deception, right? This is getting behind Tammy's question. Jacob disguises himself, but he puts animal skins because Esau is really her suit. And then the father, Isaac, is blind and thinks that he's the wrong one and gives him this blessing. Well, anybody who's reading through the Bible immediately goes, well, okay. Just say, well, I changed my mind. I bless him.
Yeah, what's the big deal?
What's the big deal? So let's go way back from the very beginning. And I mean like the beginning. So God makes everything, and it's good. And then he tells people, be fruitful and multiply. And he kind of speaks this word of blessing into all of creation. And we've talked about this before, but have you guys read all the Narnia books with your kids yet? Did you finish all of them?
We've not finished all of them.
Okay, so the seventh one is the last battle, and it's like the end of the world. But it also shows you at the beginning of the world. And they're there, and like things are so fertile that somebody brings in, it's a long, complicated thing, a lamppost from Victorian London and puts it down in the ground, and it grows up as a lamppost. It's like everything just can't help but grow. That's the picture you get at the beginning of creation with everything. So remember, there is a consequence for them listening to the snake and eating the fruit. And the consequence is to Adam, things are not going to grow as well, Genesis 3. And to the woman, you're going to have problems with conception. Okay. So it's God who makes life, and God makes things abundant. And blessing has to do with like the abundance of God. And so there's a place where Abraham wants God to bless Ishmael. And God says, no. Isaac is going to be the guy, but I'm going to also bless Ishmael. It doesn't seem like that God has any limit on what he can bless. He's willing to kind of just offer it lavishly to as many people as possible. Okay, so now we get down to Abraham's grandsons, Esau and Jacob, and there's this long, complicated deception. Let's look at it here. Isaac is blind. This is chapter 27, verse 1. Isaac is Abraham's son. When Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, he called Esau and he said, my son. He said, here I am. He said, I'm old. I don't know the day of my death. Now take your weapons, your quiver, your bows, go out to the field and hunt game for me and prepare for me delicious food like I like. Bring it to me, and then my soul will bless you before I die. So that's the whole premise. It's like his deathbed blessing. As someone recently pointed out, though, he lives like decades longer after this. So Isaac is a mess.
It's a little dramatic.
Very dramatic. So then they had this, the mother, Rebekah, has this complicated plan to have Jacob, the younger, smooth-skinned son, impersonate his older brother. And they put goat skins on his hands so the father will feel like it feels like Esau. And then he blesses him. He gives him this final blessing. So here's the blessing. Verse 26 and following. His father Isaac said to him, come near and kiss me, my son. So he came near, he kissed him. And Isaac smelled the smell of his garments and said, See, the smell of my son is the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you the dew of heaven and of the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you. This is like the Abrahamic blessing. God's going to do good stuff. I think that first line, though, is really interesting. You remind me of a field that God has blessed. It's like things are just growing.
Yeah.
Jacob leaves. Esau, the older brother, comes in and realizes that he has been double-crossed. And oh my gosh, this is so heart-rending. This is when Isaac realizes what has happened. Verse 33, Isaac trembled very violently and said, wait, who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me, and I ate it? Who is that one? He should be blessed. And as soon as Esau, verse 34, heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry and said to his father, bless me, even me also, O my father. But he said, your brother came deceitfully and he has taken away your blessing. Esau said, is he not rightly named Jacob, the heel grabber? He has cheated me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing. Have you not reserved a blessing for me? And everyone who's reading this is like, yeah, just bless him. How hard is that? It took me forever to kind of get this. I always thought the same thing. Well, okay, either rescind it if you have to do it like that, or just bless him twice.
Yeah. Like, wait, what? Oh, you're not the guy?
Yeah. Oh,
well,
shoot. I'm sorry.
Well, shoot. You don't get the thing. I'll give it to the other guy.
It's almost like the word is like a magic word. It's like an incantation, and it can't be taken back, or something from Harry Potter or something. I don't know. And then Esau says, verse 38, have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, oh my father. And he's like, no. Okay. Well, I think the short answer to the question is that Isaac is wrong. And he's wrong in the things that he doesn't actually control blessing. It's not a human action that makes something abundant. It's God who provides it. And so what Isaac is doing is mistaking the Edenic ideas and thinking that now he kind of controls, like he's the godfather, speaking it out over like, here's what's going to happen. So I think the question the premise of the question is correct. Why doesn't Isaac also just bless Esau? And the answer is because Isaac is wrong.
He doesn't understand it.
He doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
No. He thinks he controls it.
Yeah, because I think a common theme with everybody in Genesis, male and female alike, is you can see that God is using this family to accomplish something. And they know he's using them to accomplish something. But they're constantly trying to do the thing they think God is trying to accomplish, but in their way, right? Like that. So it kind of makes me wonder, is there some shred of faithfulness in Isaac at all? Like, right. Is he actually trying to do something good? He just doesn't understand.
Yeah.
Because he would know, I guess, the promise that was given to his father. And they debriefed the issue on Mount Moriah. So he would know, he would be in the conversation. Is he trying to do something good, or is he, for lack of a better term, a fool?
Yeah, maybe it's both. So this is Genesis 26, Genesis 26:24. This is Isaac now. The Lord appeared to him the same night and said, I am the God of Abraham, your father. Fear not, for I am with you, and I will bless you and multiply your offspring for my servant Abraham's sake. So God says it out loud to Isaac. I'm on your side. And so I think he's maybe trying to do the right thing, but he's totally mistaken in how he thinks he can kind of control God's blessings. And by the way, there is a distinction between the one who is the elect, the one that God is choosing for his purposes, and God's general blessing.
Yeah.
Like, let's go back to Abraham and Isaac and Ishmael. Isaac is the child of the promise, but God says, I'm going to bless Ishmael. He has no problem doing that whatsoever. Well, and later on, fast forwarding to the end of Genesis, Judah ultimately is the one from whom the Messiah will come. But the other tribes are also blessed by being part of Abraham.
Yeah.
It's okay. So he doesn't get that. But you're right. There's this constant tension, and there's all this weird stuff, which maybe we'll get to with Jacob, and fertility issues, and the women, and the pregnancy, and even the goat situation. He's trying to double-cross Laban.
Yeah.
And it's all like, we're going to control fertility, which, by the way, is a very pagan thing, right? All these even in the New Testament, you have these cult prostitutions and temple prostitutes, and the god of the fertility and all these things.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And the irony is that God has blessed humanity and said, be fruitful and multiply. God has promised, if you listen to me, you will be fruitful.
Yeah.
And they don't want to.
Rebecca, she's kind of working this plan. I want to read 25, starting with verse 19.
Okay.
This is the Jacob day one. This is the Jacob origin story here. Verse 19, these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham fathered Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Padan Aram, the sister of Laban, the Aramean, to be his wife. And Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord granted his prayer, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. The children struggled together within her, and she said, if it is thus, why is this happening to me? So she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other, the older shall serve the younger. When her days to give birth were completed, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red, all his body like a hairy cloak, so they called his name Esau. Afterward, his brother came out with his hand holding Esau's heel, so his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. When the boys grew up, Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, while Jacob was a quiet man, dwelling in tents. Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. We'll stop right there. So it seems like from the very beginning, there's been a preference divided between the 2 boys. God has an interaction with Rebekah about the nature of these 2 boys, or sort of predicting or prophesying or giving some sort of forecast of what's going to go on between these 2 boys, or how life is going to play out for these 2 boys. And then, of course, for a variety of reasons, and some we're not maybe totally sure of, she sort of imposes her will and influence on this blessing situation. So what are we to make of all of this?
So let's go. Now let's turn to where the blessing is stolen. This is in chapter 27. Where Isaac says, I'm old, make me food, I'll bless you. Verse 5. Rebekah, she was listening. So when Esau went out to get the hunt, Rebekah said to Jacob, hey, I heard your father speak. This is verse 6. He said, go make me food. I'm going to bless you. Verse 8. Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice. And Rodney, you had highlighted this a few weeks ago. That's weird language. Obey my voice. The voice you're supposed to listen to is the voice of the Lord. Whose voice do they listen to in Genesis 3? The serpent. Something weird going on there. Obey my voice.
Well, they listened to the voice of the serpent, and then in the curse language or before, God tells Adam, because you've listened to the voice of your wife. And then later, he tells Abraham, because you've listened to the voice of Sarah. And then now we're seeing Rebekah, and they're this voice languages. And I personally don't think that this is like a male-female thing. I think this is a listening to someone who's trying to impose control or some form of influence that's not from the Lord over a situation or something like that.
Yeah. And maybe even all those have a deception language, maybe. They're trying to deceive somebody. Okay. Yeah. Hey, so do what I'm going to tell you, verse 9. Take some goats, I'll cook them for you. By the way, how helicopter mom is that? She's even cooking the food,
Yeah.
I'll cook it for you. And you take it in. In verse 11, Jacob's like, my brother is a hairy man. I'm a smooth man. By the way, what else is smooth? A snake is smooth. Jacob is a snake. He's a snake all the way through until the very end. By the way, we're going to get there next week. His ending is so great. He sees everything. He's kind of a passive father, as we shall see, and there's weird stuff going on with his sons and pretty nasty stuff. And on his deathbed, he sees it all. It's great. I love it. By the way, he's also blind at the end of his life, but he sees.
Yeah. And that's a theme, by the way.
Yes.
Seeing is actually a theme, like throughout Genesis, like what you see and if you see the right things.
Okay, so jumping ahead again, but he goes into the tent. Here's my wife. My wife is Rachel. Actually, it was Leah, and I didn't see it. It was in the dark, and I was drunk, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so he says, I'm like a snake. That's my editorial. Verse 12, my dad, he's going to be able to tell, and he's going to know I'm mocking him. His mom said, let your curse be on me. Only obey my voice and go do it. Okay. At the end of Genesis, when Jacob has died and Joseph is with his brothers in Egypt, and they are all worried that he's finally going to come back and get them for what they did to him, he says, no. He says, what you intended for evil, God is using for good. So I don't think Rebecca's activity is meant to be seen as moral and as an exemplar for us to copy. But she does achieve what needs to be achieved. I think Esau is not the right guy to be the next patriarch. And Jacob, for all his faults, he is tenacious later on in the strange wrestling thing. What is the mysterious creature says, you have wrestled with God and with man and have prevailed. There's something about Jacob. He says, I'm not going to let go until you bless me. Yeah. Whereas Esau says, I'll sell my birthright for a stew, right? I think there's something about Jacob's character. It's twisted.
There's kind of a striving like nature about his character, which works against him quite a bit. But somehow he's made of the right stuff, which may not be the most purely moral stuff as we would look at it, but he's made of something that God is using.
He's not going to let go.
Yeah.
I heard John Ortberg say this years and years and years ago. He talked about, it was a fantastic talk, a shadow mission. He talked about how everybody has a shadow mission. And it's the way that God made you, and then there's the dark way you use it against God's purposes. And so the example that immediately came to mind then, it's still in my mind, would be like Bill Clinton. Everyone who's ever been around Bill Clinton, have you ever talked to anybody who was with him? They all say he makes you feel like $1 million when you're with him, but like in a good way. Like
he remembers you. He makes you feel like you're the only one in the room.
So you're a security guard?
Yeah.
Wow. Your mom must be so proud. And you're like,
yeah.
And apparently you get the sense it's not fake, as in he's not it is used for manipulation, but it's also a genuine gift from God to kind of charisma, right? And this is not a political statement. You can just see, ultimately, he used it for political office. Whether he had scandals in office or not, it's still for politics. He still isn't like running a ministry or like, doing these kind of things.
Yeah.
That's the shadow mission. You have gifts and then they can be twisted. That's Jacob, man. He's like a snake, but he has good qualities. He's relentless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so all this to say, maybe Rebecca ends up achieving what God wanted to achieve, but she does it in the wrong way. And maybe it would have worked out anyway.
Yeah. So what we're learning, that just makes me think what we're learning about the character of God, or maybe the sovereignty of God, is we start to see the golden thread that leads to Jesus and that has led, all of this story to where we're standing or sitting right now in 2026. Like, you start to see God's sovereignty where he is able or still works his plan despite the difficulties of the people that he's using to kind of further his mission.
Well, look at Sarah and Abraham. I'm going to give you a child. Got to figure out how to get a child, have a child with my maid, do this, do that. And God's like, I was going to do it the whole time. You get that sense here. So the deception happens. We spoke before, blessing is not a thing that a person controls. Blessing is the way God created the world. It's just abundantly fruitful and fertile. Isaac doesn't get it. Esau doesn't get it. And Jacob doesn't. It seems like none of them get it. So, and by the way, later on, things work out well for Esau as well, in terms of he becomes very materially prosperous when the brothers are reunited. So it's not like he lived a life of poverty, which would be, again, the point. God's blessing is just available. He's just abundant. In the parable of the sower, every single version of the good soil is eminently fruitful, 30-fold, 60-fold, 100-fold. It just is. It just does. It just produces, right? Okay. So then Jacob has to flee. By the way, how great is this? This is the end of chapter 27, verse 46. So Esau marries Hittite women, 2 of them. Look at this. Is so funny. Rebekah said to Isaac, 27:46, I loathe my life because of the Hittite woman. If Jacob marries one of the Hittite women like these, one of the women of the land, what good will my life be to me? It's so funny. She hates her daughters-in-law. Poor Esau. You get the sense of Esau is striving to have his dad like him, because later on, by the way, Esau takes another,
on purpose.
another wife. Yeah, this is 28:8. When Esau saw that the Canaanite women did not please Isaac his father, Esau went to Ishmael, his relative, and took as his wife one of the wives, besides the wives he already had, Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son. So Esau's like, well, maybe I'll have a different type of wife, and my dad will like me now. It's really actually kind of sad, but it's just a funny little detail here.
So so verse 7, though, says, and that Jacob had obeyed his father and his mother and had gone to Paddan Aram.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Where Jacob obeyed his father, why did Jacob seek a wife from the place that he sought his wife from?
Yeah, and this happens all the way through Genesis until you get to Joseph, who, by the way, marries an Egyptian woman, which is part of the answer to the question, why is Joseph not the favored one of the 12? And we'll come back to that next week. But it begins at chapter 28, verse 1. Isaac called Jacob and says, you can't take a wife from the Canaanite women, man. You got to go back to where our people come from. Take a wife from one of there. There's something about they don't want to have wives from the people among whom they are sojourning in the promised land. They want to go back to like the old country, which would be, Mesopotamia, and get a wife from there. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, okay. Ham, going all the way back to Noah, is the father of Canaan.
Right.
So there's something there. I don't know. But go back to God's call to Abram in chapter 12. Go from your kindred and from your father's house to a land that I will show you.
And each generation is doing the opposite.
Well,
they're going back.
They are. Do you remember what happens though when Abram sends his servant to go find a wife for Isaac, and the servant says, this is paraphrasing, something like, but what if she doesn't want to? What if she doesn't want to come with me? Should I just come back and get Isaac and take him back to this place? And Abraham says, no, because God told me to leave our kindred and our father's house to go to this new land. So he says, no, you can't take Isaac back you can't take Isaac back and leave him there. Like we as people of the promise are supposed to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was really interesting. But all the boys keep going back to that place to get their wives that ultimately come from Abraham's, like one of Abraham's brothers.
Right.
Right. So and I don't obviously have not fully worked it all out, but there's some purity or some type of genetic or some type of family promise or something that they're trying to kind of hold to. But it's like they're learning.
Yeah.
Like they're learning, like, okay, God told us to do this. We kind of messed it up. New information. We're still going to go get our wives from there, but don't stay there because God said we're supposed to leave. He's going to give us something else, someplace else. I just thought that was interesting. So, but now, so Isaac goes back and has an interaction with Laban and ends up marrying Laban's sister, right? That goes okay. They leave. But now Jacob goes back to find a wife, and that doesn't go quite as well, or it goes very, very differently.
Well, ultimately, Jacob meets his match. His relative Laban is also a snake. He is a really, really shrewd guy, and Jacob meets his match there. And famously, it's a beautiful verse. He sees Rachel, and he just loves her right away. And he's like, that's who I want to marry. And so he says to Laban, I want to marry her. And Laban's like, hey, man, I don't just give my daughters away. You got to work for 7 years. And it says, where's it? But he's like, 7 years was like nothing. Where is it? It's beautiful. This is verse 29:18. Jacob loved Rachel. And he said, I will serve you 7 years for her. And so Laban's like, sure, man. Verse 20. So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. So it's all going well. He works hard, but 7 years. And then famously, there's the wedding feast, and it's dark, and there's drinking. And it turns out the one who comes into his tent is Leah, whom Jacob was not interested in. And there's that very mysterious passage.
Who also has eyesight issues.
She has weak eyes. Right, whatever that means. She has weak eyes, exactly. And poor Leah. Now, she's a mother ultimately of 6 boys and 1 daughter. But nobody cares about Leah. She's kind of kicked to the side. I feel bad for her.
But she does have 1 boy that ends up mattering more than the rest.
The 4th one, yes, which you don't know at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then it's this long back and forth. Again, it's the issues of conception and fertility. She has 4 boys right off the bat. Boom, 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 boom. And then Rachel, trying to take a lesson from her great-grandmother or grandmother-in-law, whatever, from Sarah, says, oh, hey, Jacob, have children with my slave. And he has 2 with her. And then Leah says, well, I don't like this. And so she gives him her slave. He has 2 with her. And then Leah has more children. And finally, at the very end, Rachel has 2. She dies in childbirth with the 12th.
And Jacob's fine with all this.
He seems to be.
He's got no problem.
Sure, whatever. What can
he
happen?
has no problem with any of this.
Meanwhile, it just goes from bad to worse in terms of the family. Weird stuff is going on here.
So you said something that really caught my attention because it's just new to me. You brought up Genesis 3 and the curse or the language of the curse where God says that your pain in childbearing will be increased.
Yeah.
And I think there may be some misconception about that translation. And I had not really thought of this, but then you see immediately in all these families, there's barrenness, infertility. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I think that's really important.
Yeah, I don't know so everybody knows that the Bible, the Old Testament is written in Hebrew, ancient Hebrew, and translation is hard. And it's actually a really interesting thing to study the history of translations, why certain phrases were used. So I don't know the answer to this, but in some of the modern English translations, including the ESV, well, let's turn to it. This is Genesis 3:16. The Lord says to the woman, I will surely multiply your pain, and the ESV has in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be contrary to your husband, and he shall rule over you. Well, the noun childbearing, I will multiply your pain in childbearing, is based on the verb for conception. And every other place in Genesis where that verb occurs, it means either pregnant or conception. Now, compare the woman in 3:16, the consequence, to Adam. The ground is cursed because of you. At verse 18, thistles and thorns it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. So what is happening is that everything was meant to be abundantly. Go back to blessing. It's meant to be easy. Things just grow. But because they haven't listened to God, the things that were going to be easier now are going to be hard. To Adam, the consequences, plants are just not going to grow like they were going to grow. So I think it makes more sense to think of the consequence to the woman, the difficulty in conception. It's parallel. Your womb won't conceive and the land won't conceive. Your womb won't be fertile, the land won't be fertile. It's parallel between the man and the woman. And then if you look at the rest of Genesis, this is exactly what happens. So the idea that the actual physical act of delivering a child is what's painful, I don't think is really at the root of there. It's more the act of conception.
It's a fertility issue.
Yeah.
It's the curse is a fertility curse.
Yes.
Which is really interesting. I'm just thinking of this. So you can see that play out with the women of Genesis. They're often infertility as a part of their story. And so they have to try to take God's ends into their means. They're trying to figure out a way to make this work. But then even for the men, just think about all of these men end up providing for their families anyway. But it's a lot of it is through deception or like the way that Abram accumulates wealth and the way that Lot accumulates wealth. And by wealth, I mean livestock and people slaves, and all this kind of stuff. So they still experience blessing per se. They still are able to provide for their family and sort of grow their wealth and to become sort of great in the eyes of people. But what doesn't seem to be happening is every seed they put into the ground pops up into this
Right.
fruitful garden or this tree or this fruit tree or grain or whatever. They have to work pretty hard to make all this work, and often it comes through deception. I just never really seen it that way.
Yeah. I mean, but what's interesting though is that at the same time, there are times when they just seem to be blessed through no effort of their own, which would go back to God's word of blessing to Abraham. Abraham, the blessings of Eden, I'm going to give you, man. And so Abraham just gets wealthy. Isaac, who is the least impressive of all the patriarchs by far, he's just wealthy. He just gets wealthy. You can't help it. Lot gets wealthy by being attached to Abraham. It's like you're around those guys. We talked today about God's favor. God's favor is on them. And Laban, who's a snake, he gets wealthy because of Jacob. Pharaoh gets wealthy because of Joseph.
Yeah.
Just there. So it's almost like, Rodney, when you listen to the voice of the Lord and you live in an Edenic relationship with the Lord, things are just abundantly blessed. This would go back to the parable of the sower and the parable of the talents and the whole thing. And when you try to do it your own way, which is what? Taking the fruit, eating it.
Take it your way and in your timing.
In your timing,
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
Yeah.
One quick thing that just might be important, it was helpful to me. In Genesis 3, the serpent is cursed and the land is cursed. The people are not cursed. The woman, and you could kind of say, well, they kind of have a curse because bad things happen to them, but I'm just saying the language isn't there. I've always thought that was really kind of interesting. It's like there's consequences for them, but it's not quite the same. So I don't know.
We do see, and I don't want, maybe we're kind of getting down a side road pretty far, but you do see some curse language on people, but like through people. So like Ham is worried about, all these people are going to hate me if I'm I'm driven out of this place. I'm basically a fugitive. I'm on the run. And God says, no, anybody who curses you, I'm going to curse. And then later he says that to Abraham, those whom you bless, I will bless. And those whom curse you, I will curse, or something
Genesis
like
12, yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, I'm not trying to make a bigger point than it is, but it seems like there's
Okay, but maybe blessing is when you listen to the Lord and work with him, and curse is when you work against the Lord. And it's just not going to work for you.
Yeah.
And so so then this is a deep theological point. Is it more that God, you would be okay, but God makes a bad thing happen to you? Or is it more God gives you over to your own ways, which lead to death?
Yeah.
Right? You see the difference?
Sure. Well, that's the picture of wrath in Romans. When Paul talks about wrath, God's wrath in Romans, he talks about God giving us over to ourselves.
Yeah, Romans 1,
All the Proverbs so far that we've read through in this format have been about wisdom, and the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And so what it means to be wise is to work with the Lord.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we have Jacob,
All
basically, he's trying to get his own hands on it, and he's still successful, but he's kind of outfoxed by his uncle. There's some weird stuff that happens, and ultimately Jacob realizes, I got to get out of here. This is not going to work. So he heads home, and it's that pivotal scene where he's really, really worried about seeing his brother again. And he sends all his property ahead, and he wrestles all night. I mean, let's read it. It's just, oh my gosh, it's so powerful. Genesis 32:22. The same night he arose and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, his 11 children, crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream and everything else that he had, and Jacob was left alone. And just listen to the spare language here. And a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched his hip socket. And Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, let me go, for the day is broken. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. And he said to him, what is your name? He said, Jacob. Then he said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel. You have striven with God and with man and have prevailed. Jacob said to him, tell me your name. But he said, why do you ask my name? And there, look, he blessed him. That word again. So Jacob called the name of that place Peniel, saying, I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered. And then look, I mean, is this one of the great biblical verses? The sun rose upon him as he passed Penuel, limping because of his hip. And then you get this beautiful little summary statement. And that's why to this day, the people of Israel don't eat the sinew of the thigh that is on the hip socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip on the sinew of the thigh. I mean, you talk about a deep, mysterious passage that resists easy characterization. But this is one of the defining marks of his life. He is touched so hard that it puts his hip out of joint. And then he meets his brother. And we can pause and talk about the wrestling thing. And the thing with his brother actually goes well. Esau actually is kind of a bigger man. He's actually kind of forgiving. But they don't live together. They separate. And then you kind of get the drama that begins with Jacob and his sons.
So I've not personally studied this episode with him wrestling with this character, this creature, this man, this angel, whatever. I've not personally put a whole lot of time into it. What is it about Jacob? What is he striving for? I wonder, what do you think why is he so committed to this wrestling match, basically?
I guess that's kind of the question is, Jacob, what is motivating you? The reason he stole the blessing is because his mom kind of put him up to it. But why did he steal the birthright? Why?
Yeah.
What are you going? So his name, Yaakov, means the one who grabs the heel. He's a heel. He's a snake. And you can see in Hebrew, it's an idiom. If you grab somebody's heel, you trip them up. Why? Why is he a tripper? What's his deal? Why is he behaving like that? And why is he always trying to manipulate and get his own way? And what does that mean? And what does it mean that God has chosen to work through this type of guy? And is it the case that the only way God can move forward is if the man is actually wounded? The chosen one has to be wounded for the next thing to happen? That seems to be sort of what's happening here. I mean, this is
maybe like
story.
A thorn in Paul's side? Like there's some type of, I don't know.
Yeah. And yes, he's now wounded and he gets a new name, so he's a different kind of guy. I like the part later on where Joseph comes to him and says, Dad, I had this dream and everybody, including you and Mom, bowed down to me. And Jacob says, shut up, don't talk like that. And then it says, Jacob kept thinking about it. It's like he becomes a little bit wiser, maybe. Whatever it is, this is the defining moment of his life. He gets a new name. The people have a new name from now on. There would be the sons of Israel, the people of Israel. And he limps. So we could talk about this for the next 4 hours, but this is a really important episode. And I like it how you also were vague about who it is he's wrestling with.
Yeah.
It doesn't really tell you.
It's not totally clear.
No, that's right. Which is the point.
Yeah. Which, thousands and thousands of years later, we're doing this podcast. This story's been around for a long time. If it were clear, we would know.
Right.
By now.
Right.
And we don't know. I mean,
maybe God wants us to be
it's almost always vague. Like, who is this character? It's not like some commitment to biblical scholarship for the rest of your life. You're going to uncover this secret where people have been wrestling with this, no pun intended, for thousands of years.
Right. No, you're not. And I think that's kind of the point, which is maybe a good place to kind of wrap up. You have the chosen one who's a snake, and ultimately he's wounded. So those are very, very vivid messianic phrases from Genesis 3:15. Jacob has behaved like a snake, but he's actually the chosen one. And then he's wounded. And he keeps going after that. He gets a new name. He's been wrestling with God and with people. He's tenacious. What is this guy? Who is this? And this is the one that God is going to use to bring about the next generation. It's wild.
It is wild. So Jacob is alive for basically half of Genesis. So Jacob is obviously this pivotal character, whether it's his birth or his kind of upbringing or him being a father. Like, somehow Jacob is a major part of the story of the people of God. So we could talk about this forever. We're going to talk a little bit more maybe next week on his boys and the rest of Genesis. So maybe we'll end with a question. This is semi-related, but this will have a pastoral answer that I know that you've thought of before. So here's a question from Malin. I hope I'm saying that right. I know we're supposed to honor our mother and father, and I know some people say that honoring doesn't always mean obeying. So where do you draw the line between still respecting and honoring your parents and not obeying a decision they make? For example, Jacob's mom tells him to lie to his father, and he obeys her. And I'm going to editorialize, she tells him twice. Remember, she says, hey, listen to the sound, obey my voice, do this. And he says, I don't know, it's probably not going to work. She says, no, listen, only listen to my voice. So I'm adding something to Malin's question here. So here's how she asks, if Jacob had chosen not to obey because it involved lying, would that have been dishonoring to his mother? So she's kind of getting sucked into this, like, how do you honor your mother and father when there's maybe just difficulty and tension with that? And of course, we'll learn later that this becomes a commandment to honor your mother and father. Any pastoral thoughts on that before we?
Yeah. So first of all, this was helpful to me. Sometime somebody explained to me that what the commandment of honoring your father ultimately means, it begins with is being grateful that God used them to give you life, which will go back to the blessing thing. This means whether your parents were married or not, whether you knew your parents or not, whether you were raised by your biological parents or not, whether they were good or bad people, God used their bodies to give you life. So their bodies were part of God's blessing because life is a result of blessing. So you might not be able to do any more than that. Maybe your parents are really wicked people. To honor them is to say, thank you, God, that they gave me life through which I can know you. So for some people, that's very freeing because they thought to honor them meant I had to like respect them, but they weren't respectable.
Give them a hall pass for the way they were or something.
Right. You can see how hard that is. So I would just start there. That's what it means to honor. And you can build on that, but it's not less than that.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'm thinking about Jesus when he's talking and they're like, hey, your mother and your brothers are here. He's like, what? Who is my mother and my brothers? My mother and my brothers are those who do the will of my Father. And Jesus, remember, he has all those harsh words about family is not more important than faithfulness. It's not. Well, you talk about a thing people need to hear. Family is not more important than faithfulness. So it is not the intended part of the fourth commandment to obey your parents when they tell you to listen to their voice rather than the voice of the Lord, period. So I think Jacob is wrong. He would not have been dishonoring his mother in the biblical sense had he not listened to her. I think the reason for that commandment is because you can't really have society if you don't learn to be grateful and honor the ones who came before you. Yeah. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
Good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. So that's going to wrap it up for today, I think. So once again, this is the Year Through the Bible podcast. My name is Rodney Adams. I'm
Andrew Forrest, and I'm enjoying reading the Bible. And I love the Jacob-Joseph stuff. We're going to have a lot of fun next week.
It's so awesome. I mean, I know our people who are listening to this don't really think this, but, there can be this modern sentiment that everybody who came before us was somehow dumber than us. We get smarter every generation, and especially folks who lived thousands and thousands of years ago. Obviously, things would have been different if they were just smarter, but we have more information now. And it's just not true. This is an unbelievable piece of literature that these people have put together and crafted in such a way. I mean, it is unbelievable. Like we couldn't make a Netflix series out of this. It's so complicated and but yet so tight and interesting.
Right.
We could not replicate this.
No, we couldn't. And then how about the theological question, which we raised at an all-church Bible study, and we talked about it a little bit today. We can close with this. What do you do when you're God and you've made a commitment to human partners who are not worthy of partnership? That's a fun question to think about.
Yeah, and a hard one.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for us. Go to yearthroughthebible.com. If you have questions, send them in. We'll try to get them answered either on this show or via email. We'll send you something, and we'll see you next time.